A 17-year-old girl opens her eyes. She's still strapped into her airplane seat. But there is no airplane. There's only jungle, in every direction for hundreds of miles. She doesn't know it yet, but she just fell nearly 2 miles out of the sky. And she is the only person on her flight still alive. Her name was Juliane. And the day before, she'd been a normal teenager, excited to fly home for Christmas. It was Christmas Eve, 1971. She and her mother boarded a small plane in Peru, heading out over the Amazon rainforest. Juliane got the window seat. Her mother sat right beside her. For a while, everything was fine. Then the plane flew straight into a thunderstorm. The sky turned black. The plane began to shake, gently at first, then violently. Luggage flew. People screamed. Juliane looked out the window and saw a flash of blinding light hit the wing, and then the plane simply came apart. One moment she was in a cabin full of people. The next, the seats around her were gone. Her mother was gone, and she was outside, still buckled in, spinning through open sky 2 miles above the trees. Then, everything went black. When she woke up, hours had passed. It was the next morning. Somehow, she was alive, still strapped to a row of seats lying on the floor of the rainforest. Even now, scientists aren't completely sure how she survived. The seats may have spun like a helicopter blade and slowed her fall. The thick jungle canopy may have caught her like a giant net. Maybe it was both. Maybe it was pure luck. But surviving the fall was only the beginning, because now she was alone, in one of the most dangerous places on Earth. And she was badly hurt. Her collarbone was broken. One eye was swollen shut. She had a deep gash on her arm. She'd lost her glasses, and without them, she could barely see. She'd lost one of her shoes. She was 17 years old with no food, no map, and no idea which way to go. Most people in that situation would have stayed by the wreckage and waited for rescue. Juliane did something different, and it saved her life. Because here's the thing almost no one knew about her. Juliane wasn't just any teenager. Her parents were scientists, biologists who studied the rainforest. For over a year, Juliane had actually lived deep in the jungle with them, at a tiny research station. She knew this place. And her father had taught her one simple rule she never forgot. If you're ever lost in the jungle, find running water. A small stream flows into a bigger one. A bigger one flows into a river. And rivers lead to people. So Juliane started walking. Slowly, in pain, half blind, until she heard it. The trickle of a tiny stream. And she began to follow it. What came next was 11 days most people couldn't survive. She waded through water for hours at a time. She'd found a small bag of candy in the wreckage. That was all she had to eat, and it ran out fast. After that, there was nothing. She heard rescue planes buzzing somewhere above her, but under the thick green canopy they couldn't see her, and she couldn't reach them. So she kept walking. And after a few days, the planes stopped coming. She knew the water held dangers. Caimans, piranhas, stingrays. But her father's lessons stayed with her. She knew the caimans usually wouldn't attack, and that piranhas were only dangerous in still water. So she stuck to the moving current, and she kept going, day after day. The heat, the insects, the exhaustion, and the growing fear that no one was ever going to find her. Then it got worse. The gash on her arm had become infected. And when she looked closely, she saw something horrifying. Maggots had gotten into the wound, and they were burrowing deeper. She was starving, weak, running out of hope. But on the 10th day, she found something. A small boat tied up at the edge of the river, and near it, a little shelter. There was no one there, but there was a can of gasoline. And Juliane remembered one more thing her father had once done: pouring gasoline into a wound to force the maggots out of the family's dog. So, gritting her teeth, she did the same thing to her own arm. It burned, but it worked. Dozens of them came out. She was too weak to go any further, so she waited by the boat, and she hoped. The next day, she heard voices. A group of local loggers came back to their boat and found a battered, half-starved teenage girl who had appeared out of nowhere. At first, they were frightened. There's an old legend in the region about a blonde water spirit, and here she was, pale and thin, risen from the river. But she wasn't a spirit. She was a girl who had fallen out of the sky 11 days earlier and walked out of the Amazon alone. They cleaned her wounds, fed her, and took her by canoe for hours to the nearest help. She had made it. Against odds so long they can barely be written down, she had made it. 91 other people on that flight did not. Among them was her mother, who, Juliane would only learn later, also survived the fall, but not the days that followed. Juliane was the only one, the single survivor, the girl who fell from the sky. And when you look at how she did it, the answer isn't superpowers or a miracle or luck alone. It was knowledge. Her father's quiet lessons about the jungle, the rule about following the water, the trick with the gasoline, the calm to remember the caimans wouldn't hurt her. A childhood spent paying attention to a place everyone else was simply terrified of. The jungle didn't save Juliane. Understanding it did. And here's the part that stays with you. Most people, after something like that, would never want to see a rainforest again. Juliane did the opposite. She grew up and she became a biologist, just like her parents. She spent her life studying the Amazon. She even returned, decades later, to the exact place where she fell. The jungle took almost everything from her on that Christmas Eve. And then it gave her back the rest of her life. She just had to be willing to walk through it. 2 miles she fell. 11 days she walked. And somehow the most dangerous place on earth became the one place she called home.